Once in a while, the numbers really do tell the whole story. 10 years ago, solar was a niche project for off-the-grid enthusiasts and bleeding heart environmentalists. Something you installed to make a statement, not make a difference. Back then, the idea that solar could rival coal or natural gas was often met with polite smirks or open scorn. It was expensive. It was intermittent. It was unrealistic. Today, it's none of those things. Solar power has grown from a boutique experiment into a planetary juggernaut. Across the globe, we're now installing the equivalent of a large coal plant's capacity in solar energy every 15 hours. Let that sink in. While you sleep, the world adds another coal plant's worth of clean energy every single night. This isn't a trickle. It's a flood. And it's not just happening in places you might expect. Sure, you'll find massive solar arrays glittering in the desert sun. But look closer. You'll find panels clinging to the rooftops of ancient city buildings. You'll find them suspended over irrigation canals in Canada, providing shade and preventing evaporation while generating electricity. You'll see them layered like canopies over warehouse parking lots in Spain and Korea, over carports in Japan, even floating in abandoned gravel pits in the Netherlands. And now, in one of the most unexpected and poetic twists in this energy revolution, solar is rising over the ruins of coal. All over the world, defunct coal mines, symbols of a bygone industrial age, are being reborn as solar farms. These sites already have grid infrastructure. They already have cleared land, often degraded and unsuitable for agriculture or development. And they exist in communities that once derived their very identity from energy production. What better place to recenter those communities on a new kind of power? This isn't science fiction. It's not a prototype. It's not an idea from a climate conference white paper. It's happening right now on every continent. And while the rest of the world builds this future, the United States, under the direction of an administration that claims to be about strength, progress, and global leadership, is sprinting in the opposite direction. While China subsidizes renewables and dominates global solar manufacturing, we're subsidizing fossil fuels and pushing for more drilling. While Europe retrofits infrastructure to accommodate green power, we're dismantling regulations meant to encourage green energy investment. While even oil-rich Gulf states diversify in the solar, we're declaring open season on public lands for fossil extraction. The rhetoric says, America first. But reality is, China wins. We're not just squandering a moral opportunity. We're forfeiting a strategic one. Energy isn't just about watts and volts. It's about leverage, resilience, and long-term sovereignty. And every coal seam we cling to is a foothold lost in a world racing forward. Now, before we go further, I want to take a moment and highlight a phenomenal video from the YouTube channel Just Have a Think. If you're not familiar with him, he specializes in breaking down complex climate and energy topics into clear, engaging analysis. And his recent video into transforming abandoned coal mines into solar farms is one of the best summaries you'll find anywhere on the subject. In that piece, he references a powerful study by the Global Energy Monitor, which reveals a staggering opportunity hiding in plain sight. Globally, decommissioned coal mines could host nearly 300 gigawatts of solar energy generation capacity. To put that into perspective, that's roughly 15% of the total solar capacity installed across the entire planet today, just sitting there, waiting to be tapped. And that's not a theoretical projection. It's a real-world roadmap backed by geographic analysis and energy modeling. It's cost effective, it's space efficient, and it's politically poetic, turning the scars of the fossil fuel age into engines for a cleaner tomorrow. So if you want the full data dive, the maps, the projections, the global potential, I highly recommend checking out his breakdown. I'll include a card here and a link so you can queue it up in the description. Trust me, it's worth your time. But here, we're going to take a different spin. We're not going to rehash the same stats or walk through the same graphs. What we're going to do instead is zoom in on America, because the United States isn't just a player in the global energy landscape. It's a superpower, sitting on the remains of a now declining coal empire. And those abandoned mines? There are thousands of them, from Appalachia to the Powder River Basin, from Pennsylvania to Wyoming. These sites are already wired for heavy industry, often close to existing transmission infrastructure, and often located in communities that desperately need an economic lifeline. In other words, America isn't just a candidate for this coal to solar transition. It's the ideal test case, economically, geographically, and symbolically. This is an opportunity to lead the world in repurposing the past for a better future, to show how innovation and resilience can walk hand in hand, to prove we don't have to choose between environmental stewardship and economic revitalization, that they can be the same thing. But here's the tragedy. We won't. Not under the Trump doctrine. Because the ideology driving today's right-wing energy policy isn't about pragmatism or planning. It's about power. Not that kind of power. It's about grievance. It's about using fossil fuel nostalgia as a cultural weapon, a way to signal allegiance to a romanticized past, no matter how broken or unstable that past actually was. Rather than embracing the most obvious win-win transition in modern industrial history, we're watching an entire political movement double down on the very industries that are fading the fastest and deliberately sabotaging the policies and investments that could build the next chapter. This isn't just policy drift. It's a strategic retreat from the global energy economy, while other nations, especially China, race ahead in solar, wind, batteries, and electric transport. America's fossil-first leadership is actively blocking progress at home, even as we fall further and further behind abroad. And that's not just bad economics. It's a national decline masquerading as patriotism. So yes, coal to solar is a powerful idea. And yes, the global numbers are compelling. But here in the U.S., this conversation is about something even bigger. Whether we choose to lead in the 21st century or cling to the ghosts of the 20th. Because the window to decide, it's closing. Let's talk about coal country. Not in the abstract, not in some romanticized slice of Americana, but as it actually is, and what it could become. From the hollers of Appalachia, where J.D. Vance isn't actually from, to the windswept ridges of the Powder River Basin, to the once proud mining towns of central Illinois. These are regions that quite literally powered the American century. They dug the coal, they built the factories, they forged the steel, and kept lights on in homes and cities most of them would never visit. They weren't just part of the story. They were the engine. And what did they get for it? Boom and bust. Mostly bust. When the mines closed, when the seams ran dry or the profits ran dry or the corporations just decided they could make more money somewhere else, they left behind a trail of broken promises. Towns gutted, public health cratered, entire generations trained for jobs that no longer existed. But here's what they didn't take with them. They didn't take the land. Tens of thousands of acres, already cleared, already graded, already connected to rights of way. You don't have to tear down forests or fight over zoning disputes. The groundwork, quite literally, has already been laid. They didn't take the wires. Many of these sites still connect to transmission lines and substations, the electrical highways that solar power needs to move it from where it's made to where it's used. In energy infrastructure terms, this is gold. They didn't take the know-how. Coal country knows energy. They know electrical systems, heavy machinery, maintenance cycles, safety protocols. With the right retraining and the right support, these workers could go from mining the past to building the future. And they sure didn't take the pride. These are not people afraid of hard work. They don't need handouts. They need purpose. They need investment. They need the opportunity to build again. According to the Global Energy Monitor, the U.S. has over 200 former coal sites that could collectively host more than 50 gigawatts of solar energy. For context, that's more than twice the total amount of solar added in the U.S. last year. Not planned, added. This is not a hypothetical. This is not a science fair project. We're not talking about research grants or moonshots or technology that doesn't exist yet. We're talking about putting panels on land we've already destroyed, using grid hookups that already exist, employing people who already know the job, in regions that desperately need economic revival. And yet, we're not doing it. Why? Because it's not a technical challenge. It's not an engineering problem. It's not even an economic one anymore. Solar is already the cheapest energy source in human history. No, what stands in the way is purely political. It's red tape, it's bureaucratic inertia, it's regulatory capture, it's campaign contributions from fossil fuel giants, and cowardice from lawmakers who still treat coal like a sacred relic, instead of an historical phase. And it's cultural. Decades of intentional misinformation, painting clean energy as some foreign plot, some elitist scheme, instead of what it really is, the most pro-worker, pro-American energy transition in a century. The coal belt isn't dead. It's sleeping. And the only question now is, who's going to wake it up? Will it be the communities themselves, pushing forward in spite of federal neglect? Will it be a new wave of leadership willing to invest in rural America, not with slogans, but with solar arrays, battery plants, and retraining programs? Or will it be the other nations, China, Germany, India, that see what we won't and leave us behind? Because here's the thing. Those coal towns still hold the keys to America's energy future. But unless we turn the ignition soon, we may not be the ones who get to drive it. While much of the world is sprinting into the 21st century, embedding solar in cities, wind across coastlines, and storage into national grids, the United States is turning back the clock. Not slowly, not cautiously, but with ideological fervor, like a country trying to unlearn everything it knew about progress. Let's be clear, the United States should be a global energy superpower, not because it drills the deepest wells, but because it leads the transition. We have the capital, the infrastructure, the innovative capacity, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the sun, the wind, the land, and the workforce that already knows how to build big things fast. But instead of rising to meet that potential, the U.S., under Trump's revived leadership, is actively sabotaging it. In just a few short months since returning to office, this administration has gutted the Inflation Reduction Act's clean energy provisions, vaporizing over $300 billion in funding designed to supercharge the energy transition. This wasn't just a climate bill, it was an industrial strategy. Now it's a crater. They've banned new federal leasing for renewables on public lands and offshore territories. That includes some of the most promising wind zones off the Atlantic coast and the sun-soaked tracts across the Southwest. While China fast-tracks giga-scale renewables, we're slamming the brakes on our own potential. They've terminated tax credits and clean energy grants that had already catalyzed thousands of domestic projects, from rooftop solar in working-class neighborhoods to grid-scale battery storage in remote deserts. Whole industries are now hanging by a thread. They've expanded subsidies for coal, oil, and gas, re-legitimizing industries that the market itself has started to abandon. It's a rescue mission for polluters wrapped in the flag and framed as common sense. They've rolled back environmental regulations that limit emissions, protect public health, and hold extractive industries accountable. It's deregulation masquerading as freedom, but the costs will be paid by lungs, rivers, and future generations. While we pull up the ladder, other nations are building entire floors. China is installing more solar panels each year than the U.S. has in total. India is electrifying rural regions with decentralized solar microgrids, bypassing fossil fuels altogether. The EU is embedding renewables in everything from agriculture to architecture, while developing a carbon tariff regime that could make American exports non-competitive. We're not just falling behind, we're forfeiting the future. And make no mistake, this retreat is deliberate. This isn't about jobs. It's not about security. It's about power. The administration's fossil-first agenda isn't rooted in logic, economics, or national interest. It's rooted in political nostalgia, a longing for a time when America's economy ran on coal, oil, and unquestioned hegemony. But that world doesn't exist anymore. If it were about jobs, we'd be investing in solar manufacturing, grid upgrades, and green apprenticeships, all of which generate more employment per dollar than fossil fuel projects. If it were about national security, we'd be decentralizing power generation, reducing dependence on global oil markets, and fortifying against climate shocks, all things renewables help us do. If it were about prosperity, we'd be unleashing the clean energy boom, creating entire new industries, just like we did with aviation, computing, and the internet. But instead, this is about clinging to old hierarchies, about maintaining a status quo where power is centralized, wealth is extracted, and the future is held hostage to the past. This isn't just energy policy. It's a worldview. One that sees clean power not as an opportunity, but as a threat to political influence, to fossil fuel donors, and to an outdated mythology of American greatness built on smokestacks and pipelines. And unless we change course, that worldview will cost us more than just money. It will cost us the century. Let's call it what it is: a slow-motion surrender. While U.S. politicians wave flags and rail against wind turbines, China is quietly, methodically, and unapologetically winning the global clean energy race. Not just participating, dominating. They've already converted over 90 abandoned coal sites into thriving solar power hubs. 46 more are under construction. That's not a promise. That's not a press release. That's already happening right now. These aren't pilot projects or PR stunts. They're industrial scale transitions, purpose-built for a post-carbon world. China's not just installing solar panels. They're building an entire ecosystem, from polysilicon refinement to gigafactories to global exports, with a level of coordination and ambition that the U.S. hasn't matched in decades. While Washington is busy demonizing wind farms and gutting clean energy incentives, Beijing is turning yesterday's pollution into tomorrow's power. It's not greenwashing. It's grand strategy. This isn't just about climate anymore. It's not even about economics. This is about who leads the next global energy order. Let's take a step back. When the U.S. chose oil in the 20th century, it built an empire. It won wars, propped up the petrodollar supremacy, and tethered its global alliances to fossil-fueled infrastructure. That was the game, and America played it well. But the game has changed. And while we argue over pronouns and pipelines, China is building the next empire, not made of oil rigs, but solar arrays. This isn't alarmism. It's observation. Just Have a Think's video recently covered China's renewable blitz, and the data is jaw-dropping. But here's the angle I want to emphasize. We're not losing because we can't compete. We're losing because we won't even show up to the game. We've got the land, we've got the labor, we've got the tech. We just don't have the political will. And every time we double down on fossil fuels under the banner of America First, we hand China a bigger slice of the future. Every solar factory we don't build, they do. Every offshore wind farm we delay, they accelerate. Every clean energy patent we shelve, they copy, improve, and sell it back to us. So let's drop the pretense. America First, as it's currently practiced, isn't making America stronger. It's making China indispensable. And if we stay on this path, we won't just be importing solar panels. We'll be importing energy policy, written in Mandarin. So let's pull the camera back from the circus and focus in on what actually is within reach. Not someday, not hypothetically, but now. We're not talking about pie-in-the-sky fusion tech or breakthrough battery chemistries still in the lab. We're talking about real-world infrastructure projects, vetted, modeled, costed, ready to go with today's technology, tools, and workforce. Let's start with a number. 50 gigawatts of clean solar power. That's how much capacity experts say we could install just on abandoned U.S. coal plant sites. Think about that for a moment. The scars of America's coal past, decommissioned facilities, gutted towns, rusted out turbines, could literally be the foundation of a clean energy future. Not as a metaphor, but physically. The land's already cleared. The transmission lines are mostly still there. And the communities that once powered a nation could do it again. This time without poisoning their water or their lungs. According to energy analysts, we're talking about 260,000 new permanent jobs in operations, maintenance, and supply chain manufacturing. Over 318,000 temporary jobs for construction, engineering, logistics, and local contracting. 96% of these sites already have existing proximity to the electrical grid. No new long-distance lines are needed. Bonus, we'd cap and reclaim methane leaks in the process, reducing one of the most potent greenhouse gases on Earth. These aren't pipeline dreams. This is shovel-ready infrastructure. Projects that could begin tomorrow, if we had even a fraction of the political courage we devote to stoking nostalgia for a dying industry. And let's talk ownership models, because this could be more than just another top-down energy transition. These sites could be community-owned cooperatives, payback for generations of black lung claims that still aren't settled, locally governed, revenue stabilizing, dignity restoring. Imagine former coal workers retrained as solar installers and maintenance leads. Not just workers, but stakeholders in their town's rebirth. Imagine rural counties that once lived and died by the coal train, now selling clean electrons to the national grid and keeping the profits local. Imagine a power sector that isn't just cleaner, but fairer, more democratic, built by the people it powers. We could be building that America right now. But instead, we're stuck in a political hallucination that coal is coming back. Even though every major utility, every investor, every market signal, every physics equation says it's not. Instead of investing in coal workers' futures, we're feeding them slogans. Instead of retraining programs in green economic zones, we get photo ops with hard hats and lies about clean coal. Instead of building local resilience and generational wealth, we're letting whole regions rot for the sake of a fantasy. A fantasy that enriches no one but fossil fuel executives and the politicians they bankroll. So yes, the choice is stark, but it's not complicated. We can keep clinging to the past, or we can build a future. One that honors our workers, strengthens our communities, and stops cooking the planet. The tools are here. The land is waiting. The workers are ready. We just need the courage and the leadership to pick up the shovel. Energy freedom is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, especially in stump speeches and oil-funded ad campaigns. It sounds good, stirring even. But let's ask the question nobody on the debate stage seems willing to. What does energy freedom actually mean in the 21st century? Because the old definition, drill more oil, burn more coal, mine more gas, is a lie. A dangerous, outdated lie that's actively costing us our future. You don't get energy freedom by shackling yourself to fuels that are finite by definition, are traded on global markets, vulnerable to wars and price shocks, and require billion-dollar subsidies just to stay alive. You don't get energy freedom from an energy economy that can be tanked by a hurricane in the Gulf, a pipeline rupture, or a single cartel's decision in a smoke-filled back room. That's not freedom. That's dependence. Dependence dressed up in a hard hat and waving an American flag. Real energy freedom begins not with oil rigs, but with solar rooftops and wind farms, with battery storage, with homegrown jobs and decentralized power. It means every school, every hospital, every neighborhood can generate and store their own energy. It means fewer grid blackouts, taxes, lower monthly bills, and more resilience when the next storm or cyber attack hits. It means farmers leasing part of their land to solar and finally getting out from under the thumb of big ag debt. It means native tribes reclaiming sovereignty through clean energy development on their own terms. It means veterans coming home and finding work installing wind turbines instead of guarding oil fields halfway across the world. That's not a fantasy. It's already happening in places like Iowa, Arizona, and tribal nations across the Southwest. What's missing isn't the technology. It's the political will. Energy freedom means the power, literally and figuratively, is in our hands. It's not dictated by Wall Street investors or Middle Eastern monarchies or supply chains thousands of miles away. We build what we need where we need it. We train our workers to install it, maintain it, and own it. We invest in American materials, American factories, and American workers, not because it's jingoistic, but because it makes economic sense and builds community wealth. And yes, That includes manufacturing solar panels right here at home. It means using Inflation Reduction Act dollars to reshore battery production and rare earth processing. It means doing the hard work of making our clean energy future truly American made, not just in slogans, but in steel, sweat, and skill. This is national security. Let's be clear, energy independence isn't just a climate issue. It's a national security imperative. Every delay in the clean energy transition is a gift to autocratic petrostates. Every pipeline approval is a down payment on the next climate-fueled refugee crisis or regional war. Every time we fall behind in renewable innovation, we cede ground, not just in emissions, but in global influence and economic leadership. If you truly believe in America first, then you believe in energy that empowers local communities, strengthens our economy, reduces our enemies' leverage, lowers family utility bills, and safeguards the planet our children will inherit. That's what energy freedom looks like in 2025 and beyond. Not pipelines to nowhere, not coal ash and oil spills, but a clean, resilient, distributed energy revolution, owned by the people it serves. That's real freedom. That's real security. And that's the real meaning of America First. So here's the hard truth, and the hopeful one. We stand at a fork in the road, shovel in hand, staring at the bones of an old world and the blueprint of a new one. The land is ready. From Appalachia to the Powder River Basin, the scars of fossil extraction mark the landscape. But these sites are not dead zones. They are dormant giants. Vast, flat, sun-soaked plateaus with existing grid connections and nearby communities, aching for purpose. They're not problems. They're possibilities. The people are willing. Former coal miners, utility workers, and entire towns that once kept America's lights on are not clinging to the past out of nostalgia. They're waiting for someone, anyone, to stop selling them fairy tales about coal's return and start investing in their future. Retraining programs, community solar ownership, and clean energy apprenticeships have been piloted across the country. Where they exist, they work. People want dignity, not pity. They want to build, not beg. The technology is not some sci-fi dream. We're not talking about fusion reactors or moon-based power stations. We're talking about solar panels, wind turbines, grid-scale batteries, tech that has already reshaped energy markets from Germany to Gujarat. It works. It's cheap. It's ready. We've just chosen not to deploy it at scale. And the economics? They make overwhelming sense. Utility-scale solar is now the cheapest form of electricity in history. Battery storage prices have plummeted. Distributed generation, especially when community-owned, lowers bills, stabilizes local economies, and keeps money circulating close to home. Every dollar invested in clean energy returns more in jobs, health, and prosperity than the fossil fuels ever did. But here's the rub. Policy is in the way. The Trump administration and the fossil fuel-aligned political machine backing it is actively dismantling the legal scaffolding for a clean energy future. By canceling renewable tax credits, halting federal leasing, and subsidizing outdated fuels, they're putting their thumb on the scale. This isn't a neutral marketplace. It's rigged to protect the incumbents. Corruption is in the way. Oil and gas companies pour billions into lobbying every year. In return, they get sweetheart leases, regulatory loopholes, and an open door to the highest levels of government. Politicians parrot talking points written by the industry, then cash their checks and fly home to ribbon-cut new pipelines they pretend were for the people. And ideology is in the way. The culture war machine has made clean energy a partisan issue, as if electrons carry party affiliations. They've convinced millions that solar panels are a leftist plot, and wind turbines kill freedom, and whales? And that climate science is some kind of coastal conspiracy. This isn't ignorance, it's intentional misinformation, weaponized for votes and donor dollars. Meanwhile, the old coal towns sit in limbo, not because there's nothing to be done, but because the people in charge chose not to do it. These mines, these rail depots, these decommissioned plants, they could be the staging grounds for the most hopeful, inclusive, and practical economic transition in American history. We could turn environmental cleanup into employment, turn abandoned lands into energy hubs, turn despair into direction. Or we can leave them exactly as they are, rusting, empty, silent. A national graveyard of broken promises. A monument to fossil arrogance and missed opportunity. The choice isn't abstract. It's unfolding right now in budget hearings, zoning boards, regulatory rollbacks, and media narratives. We are choosing every day whether to move forward or backward, whether to invest in resilience or double down on decay. And yes, time is short. The climate clock is ticking. The geopolitical clock is ticking. The economic clock is ticking. But hope? Hope is still alive. In the workers who haven't given up, the mayors fighting for grants, the engineers building better systems, the students demanding a livable future. We just have to decide, not someday, but now, if we're going to act like a country with a future or cling to the past that's already crumbled. The land is waiting. The people are watching. The future is calling. And the choice, still, is ours.